In this mission's video tutorial, we will be building an exchange rate table in SAP Analytics Cloud. To do this, please refer to the Advanced Dev Model Build master file Excel document that you would have used to set up the model to use for this course. Worth noting, you also had to set up an exchange rate table through those setup videos, and we are going to be doing that again, but talking through a little bit more of the details as we go. So make sure you have that file ready, specifically tab number 2, the currency table. Now in SAC, to go about constructing an exchange rate table, you are going to start in the modeler application, and from there, we are going to the conversions tab. And to create a currency conversion table, you can create one from scratch with the plus button right here. Or if you do utilize a connection to BPC, you can also import directly from there. I do want to point out as I'm opening this up though, that if you utilize other connected data sources, you can still import tables from those data sources directly into an exchange rate table here in SAC as well. I'm going to give my table a name and create it. And here is our exchange rate table. First and foremost, even though we just created it and named it, I'm going to save it. I do want to also show that if importing is not an option for you, you can certainly copy and paste information from some source as long as it is organized in the correct way, directly here into the exchange rate table in SAC. One thing to note though is that the data in our file is not formatted correctly. It has to be in YYYYMMDD format. So I'm just going to manually correct that here. So if you are going to be manually copying and pasting your data into an exchange rate table, ensure that it is in the proper date format. However, a more sustainable process would be to have an imported file from somewhere. So we're going to now review how to import data into an exchange rate table. So you have to go back to the modeler and then back to the conversions tab. And then I'm going to find the exchange rate table that I just created. And this is the screen you have to be on in order to initiate an import. Oddly enough, you do not initiate the import from the exchange rate table itself when it is open. You have to do it from this screen here. So check the checkbox next to the table and then look for this import data icon right here. And you can again choose to import data from a data source if you have one connected to your SAC environment. For this use case, we are going to be importing data from a file. When you click on that, choose file from either local system or file server, wherever your file would be. Select source file, and I'm going to bring in the advanced dev master file and ensure that you are referring to the correct tab in that file, which is tab 2, APU currency table. And then click on import. The file will process, the data will load, and we will then have to map the data correctly. We can now see the raw data from that table loaded into SAC here, but this is our mapping screen where we are identifying which columns from that raw data file are associated with what column in the exchange rate table in SAC. And in our case here, it correctly identified all of those columns, but I'm going to remove one of these just to show how you would go about mapping it. Now I do not have anything mapped for source currency or target currency, and as those are mandatory fields in the exchange rate table on the SAC side, I do also see this: 2 issues, 2 attributes require mapping. To map, it is as simple as opening the dropdown of available columns from the source file and choosing the column to map to the attribute in SAC. In this case, I mapped source currency to source currency, and now I will map target currency to target currency. Even if SAC automatically detects these mappings, I strongly encourage you to double check them for accuracy because the system can make mistakes. I am now going to click on finish mapping and finish, and this file will now be loaded into my exchange rate table. Data successfully imported will be displayed at the bottom of your screen there, and we can then open up the exchange rate table to view it in further detail. And here we go. I see my data has successfully been loaded in. Notice that the date has been automatically reformatted when it is imported from that file as opposed to when I copied and pasted. So be aware of that nuance. And now let's just talk through one of these records here. So for example, this line here indicates that the currency conversion rate from Canadian dollars to euros as of January 11th, 2018 is 0.666222518. This means that 1 Canadian dollar on January 11th, 2018 equaled 0.666222518 euros. This valid from date is a crucial component of exchange rate tables in SAC. It is good until you provide a new rate with a newer valid from date. One other best practice to note is it is always good to have a really old exchange rate with an old valid from date for for all of your different exchange rates that you need so that you do not run the risk of having historical data that is unable to be converted. We have now created an exchange rate table, and that is the end of this mission.